Good to know. That means I have to be careful in what I say, because I'm being recorded. I can't say things that I shouldn't be saying. So. All right, so join the CEIP. We highly recommend you do that. This lets us know that you're using products that we know, hey, people are using it, so we should devote time to improving those products. License agreement, you all guys all read really fast. Click accept. And here are the 7 different components in the ADK. You can install all of them if you want to, but again, what we require are deployment tools, WinPE, and USMT. We don't care about the other ones. If you want to install them, you're more than welcome to do so. We're not going to use them. You got to at least do those 3 that I have highlighted. So just for speed, I'm just going to go ahead and clear the selections of the other 4 that we don't need. And I'll just go ahead and say install, and it's going to go ahead and kick off the install. Very, very quick little install process. So I'm going to let that go. Then what you'll do is you'll come back here and you'll run the Prereq Checker again. So once the ADK setup's done, you're going to run the Prereq Checker so you can validate that you have no errors that will prevent you from doing your install. So the first thing you need to do is run Prereq Checker. This will run as part of the setup that you'll see coming up later on. But I recommend doing it ahead of time because there's times where you might have the wrong service pack on your operating system, or the wrong service pack or CU on SQL Server, and some of those require a reboot. So you don't want to run all the way through setup, answer all the questions, get the Prereq Checker, and then have to, I record, I shouldn't say that. Bummer. And then have to go out and kill setup and fix whatever problem, reboot your computer, and do all the setup again. So just run it remotely prior to setup and validate things are good. So we'll do that. We're done. Now we'll just run Prereq. We'll just hit run again, and you'll see the little 3 errors go away. So now I've got my site prepared. All the rest of the prerequisites are all the same. Same operating system versions, the same service pack versions, the same version of SQL Server. All the other prerequisites are all the same between RTM and SP1. Now certainly they may be different from your config on 2007 environments because everything now is Windows 2000, Windows Server 2008. 64-bit stuff, SQL 2008, 64-bit. We do support with SP1, Windows Server 2012 as a server platform, and SQL Server 2012 as a database platform, which we don't support in 2012 or 2007 versions of Rich mentioned. So we got rid of those errors, so we're all good to go. So that's the first thing you do. So I'm going to skip the second thing you're going to do, and I'll come back and talk to it in just a moment. But what I want to do is kick this off because there's a time lag in here. So now I'm going to go ahead and launch off our setup program. And again, there's something else you're going to do before you launch this off. I just know there's a gap in here, a time frame. But I'm going to go ahead and kick off the install. And then I'll come back and talk about what you do in the middle here. And I'll draw these up for you. So our setup program is launching off. That was a launch up wizard, and I kicked up install. And momentarily, you should get our splash screen to tell us that we are, there we go. Now here you see options, and notice that you cannot install a brand new site, whether it's a primary site or a CAS. Normally you could do that, and that's because I'm running, setup is running on top of an existing site server. So it won't let me install a new version of the site server there. I have to do the upgrade option. If this was a computer without config.man installed on it, then I'd be able to install a CAS or a primary site. So we're going to go ahead and do the upgrade option. We'll do the upgrade. I'm not going to type in my product key. We're just going to go ahead and use the eval version. Just for reference, the eval version is exactly the same as the fully licensed version. It just doesn't time out. The eval version time bombs in 180 days, so it stops working. The licensed version, obviously, there's no limit on it. But no functionality is restricted at all in the eval version. And it's very easy to convert from an eval install into a fully licensed. You just run a site maintenance pass, and there's an option there to convert to license and put in your product key. And that removes the time bomb. Okay, we accept the license agreement. For those of you that are running 2007 and you've not run a 2012 install before, there's 3 new EULAs that you have to accept, and these are for specific components that we need for secondary sites, which now use SQL Server, or for client computers. So you have to accept 4 different EULAs in essence. And then you have to download some components that are used to install secondary site servers as well as client computers. And if your site server is on the internet, you can go ahead and choose the top option to download requested files from the internet. Or if you're not on the internet, like in my case, I'm going to use the bottom option. I've already downloaded them. So I went to a computer that was on the internet, my laptop, downloaded all the components, and stuffed in my image. So I'll go ahead and choose the bottom option, and then I'll path to where I downloaded those files. Right here. These are different files from the RTM release. So if you installed RTM, you have to re-download these files because they're completely different than they were from RTM. So here's what that time lag is. In most of my VMs, this cruises through and I'm done in 30 seconds. For whatever reason, in this VM, it takes like 3 minutes to go ahead and go through all these guys. So while we're waiting for that, so again, your process is going to be, first thing you're going to run a Prereq check. Prereq check.fc. That's the first thing you're going to do, which we did. So run Prereq check from command line, or you can run it from the wizard if you want to. Then the next thing you're going to do is back up your site. So if something happens, you can recover to get yourself back to a working environment. So make sure you have a backup. If your 2007 environment, you have to do the full backup config manager site server task. So to back up the database, the file structure, WMI, and registry all in one snapshot. If you're 2012, we typically don't need that anymore. All we need is a SQL backup. But make sure you have a backup of your site. Then, something that probably, since we're being recorded, I won't embarrass you all by asking you to do this, how many of you do this, but you're going to run a setup/test-db upgrade. And sorry, I ran out of space there. So from command line, you're going to go to our binaries, you're going to run setup/test-db upgrade. You're going to take the backup copy of your site database, not your production site database, a backup copy of it. You're going to go to some other SQL Server computer or some other instance of SQL. You're going to then restore that backup copy of your database, and you're going to run this test process on it. What this process does is it actually does an upgrade of your site database, but it doesn't touch the rest of your server binaries. All it does is upgrade the database. The purpose for this is, it actually came about for one of my top customers that I used to support. Actually, I still support them, but back in the SMS 2003 days, we were going through an upgrade process, and we didn't have the switch. We didn't have this option at all. And we're doing our upgrade, and upgrade bombed. And it bombed by looking at the log file. Setup log file said that there was data in the database that we couldn't convert. So they added some custom data to the database that blew up our upgrade process. So we had to go out and do that recover process. So we had a backup, we went through a recover process, we recovered our site, got back to the old version. We then had looked at the log file, we found that custom data. We ran a utility called del group. It's in like the SMS 2.0 support tool, or, oops, I can't write and talk at the same time. Del grp.exe. It was either the SMS 2.0 support tools or SMS 2003 toolkit. But we ran that utility, specified that custom data class that he's created, and it came from custom MIT files that they were using for hardware inventory. Removed the data from the database, and then our setup program ran perfectly. So because of that, we went ahead and added a switch. So since then, every time we do an upgrade at that tap customer, we always do this, and we've had a couple, 3 different times where we found that custom data again. That somebody had that custom MIT file, dumped it in the database, and that prevented us from upgrading. So now we run this, it's on a backup copy, doesn't affect the site at all, and bingo, we find it, okay, we need to go run del group again and get rid of the custom data. But do not, I repeat, do not do this on your production site server, because this is going to upgrade your database. So now you'll have, in the this, you'll have an SP1 database and an RTM site server, which is not very compatible. So that actually can kick you into doing your upgrade of your site server right now, which you may not have heard of. So you do this, so you can Prereq check, get all your OS and SQL Server stuff done, have a backup, run the test-db upgrade solution on your backup copy of the database, then you go ahead and launch off the actual setup program. And unfortunately, when I poll customers at events and so on, less than 10% of our customers have ever done this. And it may never have affected you guys, but I can tell you one customer is affected numerous times because of custom data they put in their database. So it's always the best thing to do. How long it takes to run just depends on how big your database is. In my VM, if I were to do this, it takes 5 minutes to go ahead and test it. In theirs, it takes 35 minutes to test because of the size of their database. But it's better to take the half an hour now before you have to go out there and take 2 hours to do a recovery process when you had custom data in there. Because that was planned for it.
What kind of validation results do you get?
It'll pop up with a screen dialog. It'll say you're valid. But basically, the thing to do is just go to this message box pop up. Go to the end of the config manager, set up log file, and it says test DB upgrade completed successfully. So yeah, just look at the normal config manager set up log file. So it's validated my prerequisite components. Then we ask you what languages you want to download for servers. For those of you guys who are in 2007, which was a good percentage of you, we had different versions of the product for different languages. So we had a German version, and a Japanese version, and Chinese, and English, and so on. You'd have to install the appropriate language of the code. With 2012, we took rid of that. So it's all Unicode now. So it's all one platform, and we just have language packs that will render the console and the reports in the appropriate locale based on the operating system of the computer you're running it on. So this is just to pick and choose which languages you want to have for your admin console around the world. And none of these are available for me. When I snapped this image, there weren't any other language packs available. They're all available now. So if you were to do this interactively now, you'd be able to download all these languages that you want for your environment. So my only option is English. And we do the same thing for clients. So again, for those of you that are 2007, you had the ICPs, ICP1 and 2, to give you different client languages. And this is the same thing for clients. Just pick and choose which ones you want. And then in the clean install, the next thing you'd be asking for is your site code, your site name, your installed directory. Do you want the admin console? Where's your SQL server? Are you joining a hierarchy? Where's your SMS provider? What protocols do you want to use to talk to your clients and your MP and your DP and so on? Now, since it's an upgrade, I don't have to fill in any of that information. So I just go and click upgrade, and now it runs that Prereq Checker again. We don't keep track of the fact that we just ran this 5 minutes ago. We're just going to verify. At this point in time, we're trying to do our upgrade. Is there anything that's going to prevent me from doing so? So as you can see, you'll see those same 3 errors in here. But then again, you have to still set up or just wait and go back and do whatever fixing up you need to do. So this will be done here in just a moment, and then the next button at the bottom will become available, and I can click Begin Install. There we go. And now it's going to go ahead and kick into the upgrade process. And then you'll see the progress bar, the elapsed timer, and a list of all the different commands this is the process of working on, and it'll go through the upgrade. When I've done this on my laptop in these VMs, it's taken about 25 minutes to upgrade. My top customer, they're 2 different sites, each one's around 5,700 to 6,000 clients. It takes about 45 minutes to upgrade their site. So nice, simple little thing to do. So we're not going to sit here and watch this thing complete. So we're going to go ahead and kill this image. I'm going to go over and load a different snapshot when it's already been upgraded. So I'll go ahead and start at this snapshot, and then I want to show you a couple things post upgrade, and then we'll move on to migration.
So the upgrade process is kind of dependent upon the number of clients that are in the database?
Not necessarily the number of clients, but the amount of data in the database, which indirectly comes from the number of clients. So yeah, the more data you have there, the bigger your database is, the longer it takes to do the conversion or upgrade of it.
Are there recommendations as far as like trying to clean the database before you do the upgrade? Or are you assuming that people are doing proper maintenance on databases anyway?
Certainly you'd want to make sure that you don't have data in there that you really don't want anymore, because obviously the more data you have, then the longer it takes to do your upgrade. So the more clean it is, theoretically the smaller it is, and the quicker the upgrade will be. Plus, when you're upgraded, you've got fewer old legacy objects that you don't want anymore. But it's not going to impact that much unless you have 20,000 collections and you really only want 3,000 of them. Then obviously that's going to take extra time and space and so on. But other than that, it's just a matter of how long do you want to wait, what kind of, I'll say, garbage do you have in there post. Okay, so this should be, and then every time I start up a new image, I'll load zoom in again so I can zoom in on things. I'll change the screen left resolution so it's bigger for us. And then I'll get my client started up here as well. There we go. I can do an upgrade for the client. We'll move him over up to the side a little bit. Server, log in. So you guys are going to see me loading Zoom in a ton today. So you're going to be very familiar with how to load it. It just makes it a whole lot easier because I can blow up things on the screen for you so you can see it better. Do that, and let's go to full screen mode first. And we'll go to screen resolution, so go again. Black space. Alright, so we'll do that, and my client computer, we're going to log into him. And I'll go ahead and zoom it on him as well. I don't have it on the hard drive, so I've got to load it through an ISO now. I never remember to put my image, well, not never, because obviously I have it in my one site server image, but I don't know. I remember for all my images. Screen resolution, and then we're ready to roll. All right, good. Okay, now we go back over here. All right, so now I've done my upgrade, and when you do your upgrade process, that is going to upgrade all of your site system components and all your remote environments. So if you have remote VPs, remote software update points, management points, whatever, it's going to go ahead and upgrade them. You can see the build numbers changed from 7711 to 7804. So 7804 is the build number for the RTM of SP1. So you should either be 7711 if you're RTM or 7804. It should be nothing in between. If you are, you're in a completely unsupported scenario if you're between those two build numbers. Okay. So you want to validate that your site got upgraded. What I would do is I would go ahead and look at the site status, so go system status and site status. Just verify all your site system roles on all your computers. They're listed as an OK status. That's great. If you want to verify we did an upgrade, you go to component status and pick any of the components you wanted to. I usually pick Site Component Manager. I go show status messages, all of them. And you'll just be able to choose one day because you're going to be upgrading and look at the same day. Mine upgraded, I don't know, was it a month ago? Let me look and see when I did this. Yeah. So you're looking for these type of status messages. So 1017 says, hey, I detected I have to reinstall this component. 1018, if you see one of those, says I'm reinstalling this component, and 1019 says I successfully reinstalled this component. So you'll get that in an upgrade process. So you should see all the different threads of the SMS executive where you see the 1017, maybe 1018, 1019 messages saying this one was reinstalled. Now, a couple of caveats I've seen in a couple of cases, and so you do validation of that. If you try and start the admin console, it may not work for you. And I have seen a couple cases where we're not able to upgrade the admin console. So what you would see in your log file, if you go to the config manager setup log, right there, go to the very bottom of it, and looking for lines right here. So it says we're going to install the configuration manager admin console. It is installed right now. We have to uninstall the console before we can install the new console. And sometimes what you'll see is that when it goes down here, it says uninstall configuration manager console, it'll say fail to uninstall the console. And the reason being, it's what we call a race condition, that the admin console is installed through an MSI, so Windows Installer. If Windows Installer will let you do one thing at a time. Sometimes your site upgrade can happen too fast for you, and your management point tries to reinstall as part of the upgrade process. It installs through an MSI. And so if one of the other components gets into the part of trying to install before you get to the admin console, then you won't be able to uninstall the old admin console, which means you won't be able to install the new admin console. So you'll see error messages here saying, could not uninstall the old admin console, which means you couldn't install the new admin console. Setup complete, but your admin console is not functional. So verifying your log files, whether your upgrade worked or not. If it didn't, if you see those error messages, all you have to do is go to Control Panel, Uninstall Program, and then find our admin console. Right there, you see Config Manager Admin Console, and you'll see the version of it way up to the right-hand side. And this one you can tell that it is SP1, because it is 7804 and the .1000. .1000 means service type 1. So if it doesn't upgrade, you'll see 5.007711 and 4 zeros. Just take the RTM console and install it. And then install the SP1 console. Now I just told you it installs through an MSI, but that's not how we want you to install it yourself. So if you have to go and install the admin console yourself, then what we want you to do is to go to your site server install directory, program files, Microsoft Config Manager in my case, go to the tools folder, go to console setup, and you'll see 3 different programs there. We want you to go ahead and run console setup.exe. So run the executable program. That will then verify all the prerequisites, install any other components that we require, and then it will go ahead and call the admin console.msi. So if you're deploying and upgrading remote admin consoles, you actually distribute the top 2 files. Actually take all those, bundle them up, and send them out in a package to your remote guys, and they'll run the advertisement or deployment. That will go ahead and install console setup. It'll run console setup. It'll upgrade the console for you. But run the executable, and then use command line switches to make it all silent and everything else, so we document that for you. One other thing I've seen that doesn't happen sometimes in an upgrade is that I said all your components get upgraded automatically. I've seen, actually, my VMs, where if I go look at the SRS RP log file, which is the SQL Server Reporting Services point log file, where my reporting point doesn't get upgraded properly. So you would see something down here in the log file. In this case, you can tell it does, because it says, hey, I'm keeping all these folders, recreating all these reports. So that indicates things are fine. But I've seen an error down here, and this sort of location in the log file, where it says, in my case, it was unable to find the instance of MS SQL Server or something like that, and it would retry it every 10 minutes. So my reporting services point never got upgraded. And we've only seen it a couple of times. Once was in MSIT and they were upgraded, and then obviously in my environment I've seen it before. So a very easy workaround for that, if you encounter that, is just go and do a mofcomp of this file right here. So go to Program Files, x86, go to Microsoft SQL Server, go to 100, go to Shared, and then do a mofcomp on this file right here. So just go to Command Prompt, do mofcomp, and then path it to that file, and that will go ahead and kick in the reporting services point install, and it's always worked. So if your reporting services point fails to install and you upgrade to SP1, just go ahead and do a manual mofcomp of that guy, and I'll bring you down so you can see the path again. So path is there. Program files, x86, Microsoft SQL Server, 100, shared, and then that mof file name. Just do a manual mofcomp of it, and it's always resolve that issue with the SQL Server upgrading the SRS reports. So those are the only problems I've ever encountered, or common things I've seen in an upgrade scenario from RTM to SP1. So you get all of your, by the way, you guys did hear about that certificate issue we had a couple weeks ago. It was like days after we released the product. There was a certificate problem, and there were 2 ways you could recover from that certificate issue. One of them was to install a hotfix. So we came up with a hotfix, KB280-1987. So if you had downloaded the SP1 binaries from the web, like volume license site or whatever, the data came out January 2nd or whatever it was, then you can't install SP1 clients as of January 17th, whatever the date was. So it was actually, it's a Windows bug. Microsoft released a Windows security advisory notification for it. If you installed that, that would prevent the problem from occurring. If you didn't, then you can fix this hotfix and install it from Configuration Manager. That will then go ahead and replace 3 files on our site server image. So what we just did a week or so ago is we redid the binaries up on the web. So if you haven't re-downloaded the SP1 binaries, you can do that, and you don't have to worry about hotfix. So we went ahead and basically built the fixed binaries into a reload of the SP1 code. And that was as of like the 22nd or something like that of January. So if you downloaded before that, either re-download or go ahead and apply that hotfix to your SP1 environment. Then you're ready to roll. Okay, so you go ahead and do an upgrade of your site, and get all your components upgraded, and you're all, as we would say, gotten happy. Now you gotta get all your clients upgraded, and you have hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of clients get upgraded. You can have RTM clients communicating with your SP1 site. That's acceptable. You obviously get no SP1 functionality out of those RTM clients, so you really want to get them upgraded as soon as you can. So you can upgrade your clients any way you want to. If you like to do client push, do client push. If you do group policy, you can do group policy. If you want to do software update version, you can do the software update stuff, which is very cool if you've not done it before. So you go to the administration workspace, go to the site configuration, go to site code, find install settings, and then software update phase, find install. What this will do is if you have a working WSUS infrastructure, you actually publish your SP1 client as a patch to WSUS.
The prerequisites is the same?
Or
Prerequisites for the client are the same?
No, there are new prerequisites for SP1 clients. For the most part, they're the same. The biggest thing that changes as far as client prerequisites are we now, as a minimum, require .NET 3.5, as we're .NET 3.0 with the RTM code. It's now .NET 3.5. And if it's not there, we'll go ahead and install .NET 4.0. And we're now using Silverlight 5 as opposed to Silverlight 4. So what this will do, this will publish your Configuration Manager client as an automatically approved, mandatory application update. So the next time your client scans WSUS, they say, oh, I got this patch here that I'm supposed to install. It's automatically approved, it's mandatory, and they're going to go ahead and run the patch. The patch command is ccmsetup.exe, which is our installer. So it kicks off an install of our SP1 client, or whatever version you put here. It kicks off that install by kicking off our CCM setup program, goes to a distribution point, finds the rest of the binaries, and downloads them as upgrades your client. Very, very cool way if you have a working WSUS infrastructure, which almost everybody has. That's it. It's a great way of doing that. The most common way people do upgrades of clients is through software distribution. So you go back to packages, you do a create package from definition, take this package definition file we already have built in for you, Config Manager Client Upgrade, import that, tell it, you always get the files from a source directory. Your source path would be to your SP1 site server, primary one, SMS_MCM, /client. And then just finish off your wizard. What you're basically pathing that to is this location right here. Is in essence where you're pathing it to, which is our client. So our x86 and x64 client, so you're pathing it to that location. It creates a package for you, and you see that package has one program. Now these other two packages are built into SP1. That is a package for OSD to install our client. As you know, when you do OSD, we always make your target system a Configuration Manager client, and that's the client install package for OSD. And you see it has no programs. The bottom is a brand new package we create for you automatically in SP1. That's for USMT, which is also for OSD. So if you're doing a machine replacement scenario, you can use USMT to save off all your old documents and settings and preferences and so on, and then restore them on your new computer when you get it. So that's why we needed the USMT from the 80K that we talked about before, we installed, is to create that package. This is the one I just created. Notice these two have no programs because we know command to run. We know to run CCM setup, no command line parameters. We know to run scan state, load state, and USMT. this is your one for deploying to upgrade clients. It has one program. I would highly recommend you modify that one program. So go to that package you created, go to the Programs tab, find your one program, and go to its properties. And here you see your command line is CCM setup /no service. This means keep it in user context as opposed to kicking over to service context. And then the very end says SMS site code equals auto. Personally, I would change that auto to something else. If you're in an environment where you have a single configuration on your site and that's all you have, then auto's fine, because you only have one choice. But with the auto, what that does is the client says, let me figure out what site I should assign to based on where I'm at right now. So my laptop is a configuration manager client managed by Redmond. So let's just say the site code is RED for Redmond. And let's just say we did the upgrade to SP1 over the weekend, and they just are deploying an advertisement to upgrade my client from RTM to SP1 now. And I did that. I'm sitting down here in the Houston site, and maybe its site code is HOU. So now my client does an automatic discovery. Oh, I'm in this 80 site down in Houston. I should be assigned to the Houston site. I don't want to be assigned to the Houston site. I want to be managed by Redmond. I just happen to be sitting in Houston when my client got upgraded. This is what the auto would do for me, which is not what I want. So I would always, and always being if I have more than one site, I would always change that auto to my appropriate site code. So I'm saying, I want to force this client to be assigned to the site MCM. Now, if I am a customer, I have a hierarchy, multiple primary sites, that may mean you have to create multiple programs. One program for Redmond, one program for Houston, one program for Dallas, and then deploy the appropriate program to your collection of clients or programs. But you'll force them to be assigned to the correct site. Normally it's not going to be a problem, but again, if you're in a roaming scenario, then you could get assigned to the wrong site, which you probably don't want.
Would this be an issue with the update-based type of upgrade?
With the what?
If you did the other type, the update-based, would this be an issue with that as well?
Oh, with software updates?
Yes.
As a general rule, when we're doing upgrade, we're going to keep the same site code. We're just doing an in-place upgrade of the client. So it shouldn't be an issue, but there's always a potential if a client were to get uninstalled for some reason and then reinstall with a new version of the client, then yes, it could hit that. But those other ones, they won't upgrade unless you're within site boundaries. So you would have to be within the boundaries of the site to be able to have that, and then the auto could do that. So what those other methods do, those other methods actually, they just kick off CCM setup with no command line switches, which means that they use whatever switches you have published Active Directory. Let me show you that real quick. So I would do this, and then when you have the package and program, you just deploy that to your collection of clients, and then you're controlling when the upgrade happens. So for the other methods, what we actually do is we take whatever parameters you have published here. So go to, again, your site, go to client install settings, go to client push installation, go to the installation properties tab, and we utilize whatever parameters you have listed here. So if your site is published in Active Directory, we take whatever parameters you have here for client push install, we publish them to AD, and anytime you run CCM setup.exe with no command line switches, we go read Active Directory and pull those. So you get that whatever site code value that was. And then in this case, the FSP parameter as well. Okay, so however method you do it, you go ahead and upgrade your clients. Now, back in the old days being up through SMS 2.0, we used to have automatic client upgrades. So you would apply Service Pack 1 Monday night. It's Tuesday morning, and all 10,000 employees you have come into the office Tuesday morning between 8 and 8:30 in the morning. They all power on the computers, because in the old days you used to power off your computers at the end of the day. They'd all power on between 8 and 8:30 in the morning. All of a sudden you got 10,000 clients that were upgrading between 8 and 8:30 in the morning. Because your client would check in with the client access point and say, oh, the site version is upgraded. I need to upgrade it myself. And that would go ahead and kick off an immediate client upgrade process. And you guys all massacred us because we screwed up your network traffic between 8 and 8:30 in the morning because 10,000 clients were upgrading. So we had enough complaints about it, we removed automatic client upgrade. So as of SMS 2003, you guys are in charge of doing upgrades. And again, most people did software distribution advertisements because you could control it better. Well, now y'all are complaining that we don't have automatic client upgrades anymore. So we're going to accommodate you if you wish to do so. So now what you can do is, as of SP1, go to this same location, go to your site, up in the ribbon, go to this new action here called Hierarchy Settings. Well, it's actually there in RTM, but go to this node, go there, and then we have this tab called Automatic Client Upgrade. We do have this in RTM, but it doesn't work. So don't even waste your time with it in RTM. It had issues. It's been fixed in SP1. So what you would do is go to this tab, and you see it's disabled by default. So by default, we are not enabling this, so you're in control of when you want to have automatic upgrades enabled or not. So if you choose to do so, you select the checkbox, and we present a message box to you saying, hey, you're enabling this for your entire hierarchy. It's not a site-by-site basis. So make sure you understand the ramifications of this. So let me complete this. I'll click OK. I want to do that. And then you go ahead and specify some time period where you want us to have all your clients automatically upgraded. Probably not one day, like the default is. Unless you want to work on your resume. So maybe you put in something like 5 days. So put in what your defined deadline is to get all your clients upgraded. And I'll put it 5 days. And I'm going to go ahead and click OK. I'm going to go right back in here. And I'm going to go back in here. And now we show you who did this upgrade, or who enabled this. So if you decide that it was less than 1 day, here's who you go forward to with the resume, if it was not done properly. So anyway, so what this does for you, when you enable this creates a policy, basically an advertisement for all systems. So it's an advertisement, which we now call deployment. It's a deployment policy to the collection of all systems. And this policy says you are to randomly pick some time in the next X days, in my case 5 days, for you to do a self-upgrade. So each of your 10,000 clients, or however many you have, is going to randomly pick some date and time over that deadline. It's going to go ahead and kick off that task to go ahead and check and see, am I running 5.007804.1000? If not, at that deadline, it's randomly picked. It's going to go ahead and kick off CCM setup. So it's targeted to all systems. You have no control over that. What it's actually pushing to your client is, if you go back to the software library and look at your packages, it's none of these. It's none of these packages. It's actually a hidden package. But you can see it when you go look at monitoring, distribution status, content status, is this package right here. Configuration Manager Client Upgrade Package, you can see it's got a very small amount of content, 1.39 megabytes, which is CCM setup. So the package that we're deploying is just CCM setup.exe. And then it'll go ahead and pull your command line parameters from Active Directory, since there's no parameters for it. So it kicks off CCM setup, and then when it needs the rest of the binaries, it goes and gets this package for your DP. So it goes and finds a distribution point that is within the boundary group hub, and pulls the rest of the binaries that need from up here. And you can see that a little bit larger. So for this to work, you enable it. You then have ensure that this package is distributed to at least, both these packages, distributed to at least one DP that every client can get to. We will automatically distribute these two packages to all your distribution points. So if you set up 200 DPs, this should say targeted to 200, and hopefully your percentage here is a little bit higher, so that you have a good chance of hitting all of those. In my case, it says 100%. That's because I only have one DP. So you just want to make sure that you've got that on a decent number of DPs that your clients can access it. So next time your clients retrieve policies, they get that policy that says, hey, I need you to go ahead and do this. And please, that'll work. It didn't work yesterday. It did work on Friday in Dallas, but it didn't work yesterday in Austin. So we'll see. And I'm hoping that CCM eval is done now. We have the automated client health path that runs on a daily basis, and I think that's what screwed up me yesterday in Dallas. So,
can you publish those packages ahead of time before you enable automatic updating?
They're there automatically.
Okay.
Whenever you install a config man 2012 site, we're pushing them out to every DP you have.
Okay.
You have no control over those, actually.
Gotcha.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and force my client to retrieve policies. so we're not going to wait for the up to hour. And you can see this client is 7711. So he's an RTM client, he's not SP1. I'm going to go to Actions, Machine Policy Retrieval and Evaluation Cycle. Click Run Now. And if that worked properly, which it didn't yesterday, but it did on Friday, it usually does, it will go ahead and download the policy from the management point. It will download the CCM setup.exe from a distribution point, and it creates a scheduled task force. So task scheduler can't be disabled on your clients for this to work. If task scheduler is disabled, then this ain't going to work for you. This method. You can obviously still upgrade your clients any other method you want to. Task schedule library, Microsoft Configuration Manager, and bummer. It ain't there. We should have two tasks here. This task, as you see down at the bottom, is the Configuration Manager Client Health Evaluation. That's the one that runs on a daily basis, and all your 2012 clients to verify that WMI is good, the agent started, not disabled, and all those type of things. And you can see mine runs at 12:09 a.m. This one's and here's the next run time is tomorrow, 12:09 a.m. This one is scheduled to run. So that runs some random time between 12 and 1 a.m. on each client. Let's go ahead and do a refresh here. Let me look here real quick. It should have pulled that policy down, unless my snapshots get out of sequence. I've seen it before where my snapshots get out of sequence and my client doesn't like things very well. Service, 806. No, it didn't pull policies. It didn't get the policy, otherwise I'd have a different date and time. Let me go ahead and just verify I didn't pull them too soon, which I'm sure I didn't. It should go ahead, data transfer service should have kicked in with a policy that it downloaded as of 8:30 or shortly before that, which would have that automatic schedule task in it.
If after the policy pull, the client sets that random time stamp to do its upgrade, or check in to its upgrade, is that a one-shot deal, or like for some reason, like the client's, in transit, like I'm on a laptop, and it reaches that timestamp and it doesn't, is it never going to try again, or is it going to continue to try, or?
So a couple of things about that scheduled task is it does adhere to maintenance windows. So if you do have maintenance windows on your collections clients, we will do the automatic client upgrade during the maintenance windows that are appropriate. So we do support those. And it's a scheduled task that's going to go ahead and run at that time. If the client's not online or whatever, it misses the task, it'll go ahead and try it at this next available time. Hope next time it comes up. Just like a inventory event or something like that that goes ahead and is missed, it'll go ahead and pull that next time it comes up. And I've not seen this guy pull policy. So my guess is that my snapshots got out of sequence there, and I'd have to probably join the domain. I'm not seeing the download action here. Nothing after 8:06. So I don't want. Well, we can talk about something all you need. I'll just do this one thing real quick. If this doesn't do it, then we'll just go ahead and move on. Let me just go have. I've seen it before with my snapshots. They get the domain thing gets out of sync. So let's go ahead and rejoin my domain. Welcome to the domain. Let me go ahead and restart the client computer, and we'll see if that kicks him in. If not, then we will just go ahead and move on to other stuff. That's how it works. Again, the snapshot scenario, I've seen it before with the images. You get a sequence with the domain membership and stuff. So luckily it's a very quick process to test that out. I didn't think to try this yesterday, or I didn't take time to try it yesterday and see if we can resolve things. Down here, and we look and see if it's going to policies. let's go ahead and we'll force them to full policy. If this doesn't do it, we'll just move on. But it's so much cooler when the demo works. We'll serve us a moment to process that, and we'll see if we got our policy downloaded. I guess the other way I could look too is go down to my CCM cache, and I can tell it's not run yet because I don't have the folder there for CCM setup. So it should create a folder there, like folder number 1, and then CCM setup is sitting inside of it when it's pulled down that policy and pulled down this content. So it's not a happy camper right now. Box out real quick and then and then anything, so there's nothing wrong with that. But you get the gist of it. So obviously, automatic client upgrade doesn't work. It only works in Dallas and Redmond. It doesn't work in Austin or Houston. But it's not uncommon that things don't go like that. He's not going, so however you want to get your clients upgraded, you go ahead and do that, and that's one possibility of a method. And again, normally it demos fantastically. Then I just go and show you I normally would show you the random times, and when I did this in Dallas, it randomly picked the same day that we did the demo on. So it was Friday, so whatever that was, the first. It picked the first and 6:43 p.m. So it was like 8 hours after I started this. It was a rubbing time. It would have picked. And I had other days for 7 days and picked the 6th day. So it just picks random days, and the client has a scheduled task. And I just go in there and run the scheduled task, so you see CCM setup kick off, and away we go on that. So apologize for not being happy there, but the goal is to get all your clients upgraded so they can take advantage of some of the cool things that we have now in Service Pack 1. All right, any questions on that before we move on to a different topic?
If the client is not online during that time it's fixed, will it then run that first log on?
Yeah, it'll go ahead and run that post. Post, it's missing, just like any other scheduled task that got missed. Okay, so then what we should probably do is some hierarchy or some migration. So why don't we go ahead and take 10 minutes